Have you ever noticed how some people only seem confident when they have an audience? Not when it's just the two of you, not in private, not in honest conversation, but the moment other people are around, their tone changes. They joke at your expense. They expose something personal. They interrupt you. They try to make you look small. And maybe the strangest part is, it can happen right after you were simply being yourself. So let me ask you something early on. Have you ever had someone try to embarrass you in public and later realized it said more about them than it did about you? If you have, tell me what happened in the comments. I think a lot of people have lived through this, but almost nobody talks about how weirdly revealing it is. Because when someone tries to humiliate you in front of other people, it's usually not random. It's not just bad manners. And it's not always about dominance in the obvious way people think. Sometimes it's something deeper. In a very Jungian sense, public embarrassment is often a form of projection, not just insecurity, not just jealousy. Projection. It's when someone can't bear a feeling inside themselves, so they unconsciously try to place that feeling inside you. Their shame, their inferiority, their fear of being unnoticed, their fear of not measuring up. And for a few seconds, if they can make the room laugh at you, if they can make you flustered, if they can make you explain yourself, then they get relief, a very temporary relief, because now, for one little moment, you're carrying the discomfort they didn't know how to carry themselves. And that's the twist most people miss. When insecure people embarrass others in public, they are not just trying to hurt you. They are trying to escape themselves. That's why it can feel so sudden. You might be sitting at dinner, speaking normally, and then someone says something sharp like, "Wow, you always have to sound so smart, don't you?" Or maybe you share good news, and they respond with a joke that gets the group laughing. Look at you, acting like a celebrity now. Or they bring up an old mistake of yours in front of people. Something that didn't need to be mentioned, something they would never dare bring up if there wasn't an audience watching. And afterward, you sit there thinking, why did that feel so targeted? Why did it feel like they needed other people present to do it? Because the audience is part of the strategy. This is where Jung's idea of the persona comes in. The persona is the social mask, the version of ourselves we present to the world to appear composed, acceptable, admired, in control. Insecure people often cling to their persona much more tightly than they realize. And when someone around them reflects something they secretly feel they lack, confidence, ease, self-respect, intelligence, beauty, calm, emotional independence, that persona begins to crack. Your presence can make them feel seen in a way they didn't ask for. Not because you did anything wrong, but because something in you touches something unresolved in them. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, instead of asking, why does this person trigger me? Why do I feel smaller around them? Why do I feel threatened by their calm? They protect the persona the fast way. They try to push you down publicly so they can feel elevated socially. It's almost primitive when you think about it. Like the ego saying, if I can make them look foolish, then nobody will notice how insecure I feel. And honestly, most people who do this are not even fully conscious of what they're doing. That's what makes it so unsettling. If someone were openly malicious all the time, it would actually be easier to understand. But these people often hide behind humor, or just being honest, or you're too sensitive, or I was only joking. That phrase alone has covered so much disguised hostility. I was just joking. But real humor doesn't usually leave one person carrying all the humiliation while the other person gets all the power. That's not humor. That's emotional displacement wearing a smile. And you probably know the exact kind of moment I'm talking about. The backhanded compliment in front of friends. The private detail exposed in front of family. The mocking tone when you're speaking seriously. The little eye roll that invites everyone else to join in, the playful jab that somehow always lands on your dignity, and the room often misses it. That's another painful part, because public embarrassment is often subtle enough to be denied, but sharp enough to be felt. So the person doing it gets to keep their innocence, while you're left feeling strangely alone. You feel hit, but if you react too strongly, you risk looking dramatic. And that's exactly why insecure people use this tactic. It puts you in a trap. If you say nothing, they get away with it. If you defend yourself, you may look defensive. If you get emotional, they can say you proved their point. It's a very clever little arrangement for someone who doesn't know how to regulate their own inferiority. And this is where the Jungian perspective gets even more interesting. Jung believed that what we reject in ourselves often returns through the shadow. The shadow is not just evil. It's not just rage or selfishness or darkness in the dramatic sense. It's also the parts of ourselves we were taught were unacceptable. Weakness, neediness, envy, shame, failure, dependency, smallness. And when someone has not made peace with those parts, they often become fascinated, almost possessed, by those qualities in other people. Especially if the other person seems freer, if you are comfortable being yourself, if you don't seem desperate for approval, if you carry yourself with some quiet dignity, that can deeply disturb a person whose whole inner world is organized around not feeling less than, because your calm becomes evidence of their chaos, your self-possession becomes evidence of their self-doubt, your authenticity becomes evidence of their performance, and instead of admitting that, the shadow chooses an easier route: embarrass the person. Reduce them, expose them, make the room look at them. That way, the insecure person gets to feel momentarily protected from their own inner exposure. In other words, public humiliation is often a defense against private humiliation. That's the deeper twist. People who try to embarrass others in public are very often people who are already embarrassed by themselves. Embarrassed by their own envy, embarrassed by their own need for validation, embarrassed by how fragile they feel next to certain people. So rather than experience that consciously, they convert it into social aggression. And once you see that, a lot of confusing experiences from your past start making sense. Maybe there was a friend who always interrupted your stories with a sarcastic comment, not enough to start a fight, just enough to puncture your confidence. Maybe there was a sibling who brought up your failures whenever other people praised you. Maybe there was a partner who would tease you cruelly in group settings, then act warm again in private. Maybe there was a co-worker who acted charming around everyone else, but kept making little public corrections every time you spoke. And the pattern was always the same. They needed witnesses. Because public embarrassment is not only about hurting your feelings, it is about managing status. It says, I don't know how to feel secure in myself, so I need the group to help me feel above you. And what makes this so painful is that many decent people don't think that way. So when it happens to them, they assume it must be a misunderstanding. They give too much benefit of the doubt. They think, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe that's just their personality. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. And yes, sometimes people do say careless things. Not every awkward moment is psychological warfare. But your body usually knows the difference. Your body knows when a comment was clumsy and when it was designed. It knows the difference between accidental awkwardness and calculated diminishment. That sinking feeling you get, that strange heat in your chest, that moment when the room shifts and you suddenly feel like you've been placed under a spotlight you never asked for. That feeling matters because very often your nervous system picks up what your mind is still trying to explain away. And once you recognize this pattern, the next question becomes, why do some people choose public embarrassment specifically? Why not just criticize you privately? Why not distance themselves? Why not be passive-aggressive in quieter ways? Because public embarrassment gives them three things at once. First, it gives them an audience. And insecure people often borrow self-worth from the reactions of others. If people laugh, smirk, or even just stay silent, they interpret that as social confirmation. Second, it gives them plausible deniability. They can say it was a joke. They can say you took it the wrong way. They can make your pain look like your problem. And third, it gives them temporary superiority. For a brief second, they get to feel bigger by making you feel smaller. But the key word is temporary, because people who rely on humiliation never build real confidence. They only build moments of relief, and relief is not the same as self-respect. That's why they often repeat the behavior. They need another moment, another joke, another jab, another little performance. They're not solving anything inside themselves. They're just medicating it socially. And if you've been on the receiving end of this, I want to say something clearly. Their public disrespect is not proof that you are easy to disrespect. Sometimes it is proof that your presence unsettles something fragile in them. That doesn't mean you should romanticize mistreatment, and it doesn't mean every attack means you're powerful or special. Sometimes hurt people are just hurtful. But very often when someone repeatedly tries to make you look foolish in front of others, it is because they experience you as a threat to the identity they are trying to maintain. Especially if you are someone who doesn't perform insecurity the way they expect. This happens a lot when you become quieter, stronger, less eager to explain yourself. It happens when you stop chasing approval, when you start setting boundaries, when you no longer laugh along just to keep the peace. Suddenly, the same people who were comfortable with you before become irritated. Why? Because the old version of you was easier for their ego to manage. The new version of you forces them to confront themselves. And many people would rather embarrass you than face that confrontation inwardly. Now, what do you do when this happens? Not in theory, not in a perfect Instagram quote way. What do you actually do in real life? First, don't rush to defend yourself excessively. That's often the trap. When someone embarrasses you publicly, they are frequently hoping to pull you into emotional over-explanation. Because the more flustered you become, the more control they feel. Sometimes the strongest response is not a speech. Sometimes it's a pause, a calm look, a simple, "that was unnecessary," or interesting thing to say out loud, or even, "you seem very comfortable trying to make that a public moment." Not dramatic, not theatrical, just clear. Because one of the most unsettling things for an insecure person is when their attempt to destabilize you fails. Not because you suppressed your feelings, but because you stayed connected to yourself. Second, notice the pattern, not just the moment. Anyone can have a bad day. Anyone can make one bad joke. But if someone repeatedly embarrasses you in group settings, believe the pattern. Don't keep analyzing isolated incidents while ignoring the overall design. Third, stop offering intimacy to people who convert it into performance. If someone learns your vulnerabilities, your stories, your insecurities, your past, and then uses them as material in front of others, that person is telling you they are not safe, not emotionally safe, not relationally safe, and safety matters more than history. A lot of people stay too loyal to people who keep publicly wounding them simply because they've known them a long time. But time does not transform disrespect into love. And fourth, this may be the hardest part, don't let their behavior define how visible you are willing to become. Because one of the hidden effects of being publicly embarrassed is self-erasure. You start speaking less, sharing less, laughing less, trying less. You become cautious around rooms. You begin editing yourself before you even open your mouth. And that is the real theft. Not the moment itself, but the way it makes you abandon your own spontaneity afterward. Don't give them that. Yes, become wiser. Yes, become more discerning, but don't become smaller just because someone else needed you to be. That would mean their insecurity succeeded in shaping your identity, and that's too high a price. Jung's deeper invitation was never simply to judge other people's shadow. It was to become conscious of our own. So if this topic touches something in you, there's also a quiet inner question worth asking. Why did this moment hurt me so deeply? Not because you deserved it, not because they were right, but because humiliation tends to touch old wounds. Maybe it touched a fear of being laughed at, a childhood memory of being exposed, a lifelong sensitivity around not being taken seriously, a part of you that still believes public rejection means something about your worth. And this is where your own healing begins, because the goal is not just to understand why insecure people do this. The goal is to become so inwardly grounded that when it happens, you can recognize it without absorbing it. You can say, this is painful, this is disrespectful, and this is not mine to carry. That's real power. Not never being hurt, not pretending not to care, but refusing to confuse someone else's projection with your identity. So the next time someone tries to embarrass you in public, remember this. A secure person does not need an audience to feel whole. A secure person does not need to expose others to protect themselves. A secure person does not create closeness by creating shame. People who humiliate others publicly are often revealing the very thing they are desperate to hide, their own fragility, their own inferiority, their own unresolved shadow, their own fear that without the mask, without the performance, without the crowd, they may have to meet themselves honestly. And that is what they are really avoiding, not you, themselves. So if this has happened to you before, and you've been secretly replaying that moment in your head, wondering why someone needed to do that to you in front of everyone, maybe this is your answer. It was never only about making you look small. It was about helping them not feel small for a moment, at your expense. And once you see that clearly, you stop personalizing what was actually a confession, a very public confession, made by someone who didn't even realize they were confessing. If this resonated, let me know in the comments. What's one subtle sign you've noticed when someone is trying to embarrass another person in public? Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And sometimes naming it is the first step to finally being free of it.